Namaste. Welcome to the beginning of another live Sangha. I hope you are as well as you can be in this moment, as I'm sure you are. I'd like to take a moment before our guests arrive to set the intention for this space. But not after I do an invocation, or not before I do an invocation of the Gayatri Mantra. Welcome, Lando. Om Bhur Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Om. Namaste, dear Enzo and Didi and Tiki and Kate. Hello. Welcome, Boogie. Hello, dear Joe. I trust that despite the circumstances in your life at this moment, you are feeling as well as you can be. Jai Shri Rama. Hello, dear Sky Guardian. Namaste, dear Jules. Hello, Southern Sun and Devious. This is another bountiful opportunity, if you're hearing this, to check in with yourself, how you are feeling at this moment. Namaste, dear Emmett. Hello, Laura. Hello, Enzo. And thank you for liking the live, dear Emmett. Never expected, but always appreciated. Hello, Red Hat and Lacey Lee. Sometimes we wait until a new year to decide how we want to be. Sometimes we wait until another day. But that ability for you to check in with how your life has been going, how your day has been going, how you're feeling, and make some adjustments, that can happen anytime throughout the day. Even if you've had a particularly challenging day up to this point, you're welcome to ask, how do you want your day to end? Happy Saturday, Dopamine Queen. Welcome, Bisa. Hola, Saladin. Welcome, dear Leva, and good evening, Lacey Lee. Thank you. My day has been lovely. How has your day been? I would love to know. No one is ever expected to share, but if you wanted to, I'd love to know what kind of feelings to hold space for in this live stream. I know there's a diversity of experience happening all around the world, and it's totally cool if, you know, some of us are feeling one way and another is feeling a different way. There's no wrong way to be human. Dear Shiru, hello. Can you know my zodiac sign? Well, you are welcome to. It's a Libra, but I hope for you to see past it, just the way that we see past each other's gender and ethnicity, and look to the uniting core within us all, which is beyond anything determined by birth. Not the body, not the star sign, the consciousness within you and me. Thank you for understanding, and thank you, Risi, for the heart me that you sent. Very kind of you. Om Namah Shivaya. Hello, dear Raw Minds podcast. You share that you are a podcast on men's mental health. That's very important. I'm really happy to hear that there is a podcast for such a thing out there, and you are doing wonderful work. Much love, dear Mina. Hello, Aesthetically Pharaoh. Leva Sharif, you shared today you had a walk and the moon was astonishing. Wow. I love how much you enjoy Mother Nature as a whole. I think the moon is such an important part of our consciousness. You know? The two most interesting things in the sky are the sun and the moon. No wonder we associate so much important symbolism with them. And thank you, dear Jay, for your heart me and quintet of finger hearts. Hari Om Tat Sat. And thank you, Trayashnatic, for your TikTok too. Ram, ram. I think it's delightful that in such a difficult circumstance in your life, dear Ram Minds podcast, that you found a reason in that life that touched you to let that life live on in another way. It's beautiful. Welcome, dear Hybrid Jen. You share that you emailed me, but it's still queued. Oh, well, I'll have to double check my emails then. The moon always captivates you, shares Mina. Perhaps because the moon is a part of you. The moon represents in spirituality the mind in its changing phases, and the sun in its stability represents the inner light of consciousness. So just as the moon's light is a reflection of the sun, the feeling of being we have in the mind is a reflection of our consciousness that we share. And thank you for your follow, dear Ram Minds podcast. No, I'm not familiar with black dots appearing on the moon, dear Jay. Someone must have left some bread on there and it got moldy. You know, you leave a piece of bread out for too long and might get some spots on it. The moon, it's getting moldy. I guess that's why it's made of cheese. Thank you, dear Babel Fishy, for your tiny. Yippee! Thank you, dear Shiru. Hello, Summer. Hello, Blade Surge. Welcome, everyone. Now that I have a moment, I'd love to set the intention for this space as being one for us to come together as fellow students of life, at the very least, to uplift each other, relate in one another's experiences, and share positive sentiments. I think we all have a kind of duty to contribute that together in the world right now, and it would be my honor to host a space where that can be made possible. Yes, there's lots of symbolism in the phases of the moon, dear Mina. Dear Leva, if you may ask, how can we get rich in time? In this capitalist world, time is just frying. That's a very visual description of frying time. I've never heard that before. I appreciate that. But true wealth is always in our joy. From the moment we are born to the moment we die, we come into this world with nothing that we own, and we leave it with nothing too. All of the money that comes across our path is only going to be temporary. Still, it's important for us to generate some amount of wealth, because that is the nature of currency and how we can afford to have food in our tummies and a roof over our head and a job to support the people in our society. But always remember that true wealth is not found in commodity. It's not found in currency. It's in your ability to be joyful now. In the most desolate places in the world, there are people without a single penny in their bank account. They don't even have a bank account. And yet they have a smile on their face that's untouched by the sands of time. So many people run after money because they think it'll make them happy. But if happiness is the real goal, then you need to look no further than what's available for you in this moment. You can be happy at the way that you're able to laugh in the face of uncertainty. You can be happy in the fact that your lungs still have oxygen in them. You can be happy in the fact that your dreams are still there and your creative vision has remained untouched. You can be happy for so many little things to be grateful for, and have a deep sense of serenity sink in just on what's here and now. You don't need any money to be happy. Now, dear Bastian Silva, you are asking some philosophical questions. If you are the Ātman and also Brahman, how can we reconcile the subjective experiences of two people? So who am I? Are you and I the same too? It's a great question. Let's include everyone. Ātman refers to the self, and Brahman refers to the nature of the entirety of reality. The reason we say that you are Ātman is the same way that we say that you are a part of the universe. We use the word to be in various conjugations, in various ways. And in the sense that we are one with the universe, we mean that in the sense that we're simply a part of it. And this is a misconception that can happen early in the understanding of Vedanta, where these words come from. The understanding that you are the universe means that you are one in essence, but not the whole. There are different beings, different people. It's not an illusion for there to be this body and mind over here and another body and mind over there, but we're all part of Brahman together. Just like an ocean has many waves, and no wave in particular is the whole ocean, but all waves together make up the ocean. It's in that way that Ātma, the self, is one with Brahman, everything else. Thank you, dear Ashley, for your heartbeat. Om Namah Shivaya. Hello, dear Tacoma. It's lovely to have you here too, dear Ashley. And thank you for the follow, dear Crystal Clear. Oh, you're very welcome, dear Bastian Silva. Another way of thinking about it is that we share one consciousness but have different bodies and minds. And so I can't read your thoughts because we have different minds. And one part of the shared consciousness is experiencing this mind and body, and another part of the same shared consciousness is experiencing another body and mind. Just like how we can have one sun in the center of our solar system, but the experience of sunrise on every planet. And each sunrise is unique, not because there's a different sun for each planet, but because each planet creates a unique experience to see the light of the same sun. Dear Hybrid Jen, you ask, what's the metaphor with breaking bread? It's on your mind. You know, I'm not too sure, but I think breaking bread can simply mean sharing. Long before bread was pre-sliced, in order to break it apart, especially if you were living in medieval or ancient times, you would just break it. You would just rip off pieces and then take a piece of that and share it with another. And if I'm not mistaken, it's a biblical metaphor for community, that we can break bread with whoever. We don't have to hoard our resource and go, oh no, this bread is just mine, no bread for you. To be fair, if you ever have a really good piece of sourdough bread, you might be like that. You might go, oh, this sourdough bread, I can't share this with you. Sorry, I have to eat this in its entirety. That being said, if you really cherish the beauty of that sourdough bread, and you recognize how valuable of an experience it is to eat it, then wouldn't you want to share it with as many people as possible? Wouldn't you break that bread with as many as you can so that everyone gets to experience the joy? Pardon me for clearing my throat. My body's still a little sick. Welcome, Mustard Pickles. Thank you, Chloe, and welcome, dear Skylar. And thank you, Tamia, for your heart me. Hari Om Tat Sat. And dear Ashley, thank you for your love, you. Om Kring Kali Kaye Namaha. And dear Farania, thank you for your heart me too. Om Hrim Namah Shivaya. You wonder if I'm trying to be a guru? No, I am learning so much about so many things, and one of the things that the great gurus that come before me tell us that one of the best ways to be happy is to serve others, and it makes me really happy to be able to listen to you and share my experience. I'm just that one fellow student in the class that loves to engage with the course material so much that they won't stop talking about it, even outside of class. Thank you, BYV Fragrance, for your trio of roses. Om Braum Hanumate Namaha. I love your empathy for even yeast, dear Sky Guardian. That's beautiful that you recognize life at all scales, big and small. Countess Nadejda, not exactly sure how to pronounce your J in your name, but it's a beautiful name nonetheless. You ask, what are my beliefs? My belief is I believe in you. I believe that whatever there is to believe in, that each being like yourself is an access point for that, regardless of what we call it and how we choose to practice. I believe in you. We all have the ability to make this world a better place. Dear Bastian Silva, you ask another one. How can we dissolve the separation between meditation and regular life itself? I love that question. What a great assumption that there doesn't need to be any difference between having a time where you're meditating and having a time where you're alive. Isn't life a kind of meditation in itself? And isn't meditation a way of really embracing life? Yeah. There's a one-word answer for that. It's called karma yoga. In English it becomes two words, but in Sanskrit it's a compound word. The 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gītā is all about that, an ancient scripture on the nature of karma and other spiritual things. Thousands of years ago, it's said to be a song sung on the battlefield. The 3rd chapter is all about karma yoga, also known as the yoga of action. Yoga meaning union. There's a way of unifying ourself with our actions, which is kind of what the question entails. When we're meditating, we're not doing. When we're not meditating, we must be doing. Well, the way to be when you're doing is to be in the doing. Now, what does that mean besides some poetic words? It means that you're not living for anything separate from the gift of giving itself. That you're loving not to get anything in return, but to love itself. You're fighting not to win or to stop yourself from losing, but to fight itself. to be one with your action simply means you renounce attachment to a favorable or unfavorable outcome, that you've made peace that with whatever happens, you'll be able to make use of what you got. You'll be able to manage. But the true gift of life is not to receive anything or avoid anything, but to be able to be a part of it. And so if you see that value in what you're doing, even if it's reaching your hand and grabbing the doorknob and turning and opening it, you can feel like that's a dance, not because there's something for you to attain in the other room, but because life is a kind of wonderful ballet, and each action can be seen as a meditation itself. And if you want to learn more about that, I highly recommend the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gītā. Well, I'm happy I'm not putting you to sleep. Although some people tell me that my voice has that effect. Anyway, whether I wake you up or put you to sleep, all good with me. Thank you, Lilyamar, for the heart me that you had sent. Radhe, Radhe. Dear Davis, thank you for your heart me. Ram, Ram, and Trevor, thank you for your friendship necklace. Jaya Sita Ram. Hello, dear Vince of York. Nice to see you here. Dear random TikTok, there seems to be an opportunity for us to understand each other better. Now, I may be speaking from a place that you may be unfamiliar with, and in the context that you're familiar with, maybe the things outside of your religion are described as witchcraft or paganism. And although those are wonderful forms that people can express themselves through on the path of spirituality, I am not a practicing pagan or witch myself. I'm sure we have some wonderful witches and pagans here. But this is a non-denominational space open to everyone, regardless of your path up the mountain. We all have the same goal to reach. That goal is to become happy, peaceful, loving servants of the universe and the divine within everyone. And the greatest qualification to tell if you are on the right path is if you are becoming more patient and kind and loving and peaceful, etc. Because these are the qualities of that divinity that we're chasing. Whether you're in one religion or another, we're all a part of the same journey of life together. And I would love to make a world with more religious tolerance, for us to see that we're all brothers and sisters, and between and beyond, we are part of one life, one divinity. Even though we talk about that divinity in different ways, we call it by different names, we all come from the same source and get to express it too. The real enemies in life are not other people's beliefs, but our own limiting beliefs, our own inability to see the goodness in others and ourself within everyone. The false idols are not the names that other people call their God, but greed and envy and hate. These are the false idols that people put power into. Money, power, and the hoarding of resources. Those are what are not to be believed in. Hello, dear Talon. Instead, we should empower and put belief into the heart of hearts, that life that you can see reflected in your own eyes and in all other beings, animals, even plants, the light of the sun and moon and all the stars, one great cosmic being which we are all expressions of. Thank you, dear Jessica, for your pair of quintet of roses each. Radhe, Radhe. And dear Hybrid Jen, thank you for your rosa. Ram, Ram. And dear Jessica, thank you for your tiny. Yippee! Hello, dear Jen. Sky Guardian, you were wondering what the music was that we just played. It was called Spa.mp3, before the one that's currently playing. Spa.mp3. It's something I downloaded off of SoundCloud for free. It had no copyright, so don't worry. Dear Chloe, you ask, what do I think about the usage of crystals? Oh, they're so beautiful, aren't they? And they're just able to capture our attention. And so much of our love can be held in them. You can just feel it. It's wonderful. I think Mother Earth probably needs her crystals back, you know. There were times in which she was doing all right on her own, but nowadays I think we need to give our resources back to Mother Nature, you know. Put the crystals back in the ground and let their energy heal the world. She's hurting right now, and remember that all that love that you put into the crystal to help your life in some way, that came from inside you. And so all of that can be found within. There's no need to find it in any other place around you. You have everything you need inside. And thank you, dear Dasha, for your heart me. Om Kamalyar Mahakalikaye Namaha. Dear Danielle, you ask, do I believe in the of the world? I think there's a word missing. What could this word be? Do I believe in the beginning of the world? Do I believe in the power of the world? Do I believe in the end of the world? Probably is the question. This world has been ending for billions of years, in the same way that it's only just beginning. Just as your life has been ending from the moment it began, it is also just beginning to fully blossom. Life and death are not diametrically opposite points of life, but a process that's simultaneously happening. Sometimes there is destruction, but only to make room for more creation. Sometimes we do experience loss in order for us to experience something new after. Welcome, Tish. My eyes are purple again, shares Talon. That's fun. Hello, Talita. Hello, dear Michelle. You're trying to see the beauty in every aspect of life, but sometimes it's difficult. Absolutely. Yes, it is difficult. And that's why it's such a worthy challenge. Because if you are able to see the beauty, then you must have put in a great deal of effort, and you can be proud of that. Yes, crystals can be very expensive, dear Kristen. But you know, there's a very cheap crystal that all of us can have. A time crystal. We've all heard of crystals that exist through space. What a crystal is, by the way, if you don't know the definition, When you zoom in really close, you'll see that the atoms or molecules are arranged in a very repetitive way. And that's very beauty, because that's very beauty. Yes, it is, but it's very beautiful, I mean to say, because it's symmetric, and humans love symmetry, and there are many different kinds of symmetries. Crystals exhibit translational symmetry, which means that if you look at the molecular structure, that if you move the whole system to the left or to the right or up or down, you should be able to superimpose one part of it on another. And when you zoom out, that makes for some fantastic abilities. The way for light to ripple through it is very different than something that doesn't have that lattice-like structure. Anyway, that's a space crystal because it's a repeating structure through space at a very small scale. Time crystals are exactly the same concept, but a repeating structure through time. And what do you think that means? What does it mean for something to repeat itself through time? That's a cycle. It's a routine. So if you want to make yourself into a crystal, give yourself a beautiful structure that repeats. And then in the fourth dimension of time, you will become a crystal, a time crystal. Maybe that means pouring yourself a cup of tea at the same time every day. Maybe that means taking a few minutes to meditate, pray, or whatever. If you give yourself a routine, then the same beauty that you find in crystals can be realized not through objects of space, but through your very own subject of time. Thank you, dear Jessica, for your dozen roses. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Hello, Candy, 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 Candy. You share that you're sick and your memory is going. Have I any help? Yes, I have 2 recommendations. One way to prevent memory loss is to exercise your mind, in the same way that the way to prevent muscle loss is to exercise your muscles. Very same principle applies to the body as does the mind. If you want to keep your mind in good shape, then keep it engaged in intellectually stimulating things. Maybe do a crossword puzzle a day, or I know you hated it in school, but do a math problem. That can be really helpful for your mental health. In the same way that exercise on the body, even if you don't enjoy it, is still very healthy for the physical body. No, shares Kristen. The best part is if you do math problems voluntarily, there's no test. Sudoku is a great alternative, a crossword, puzzle, word search, that sort of thing. Yeah. Even playing games exercise the mind. Strategy games especially. But for most people, it's probably not going to be in absence of which the cause of memory loss. For most people, you're not actually losing your memory. If you feel like you haven't been able to keep track of everything lately, you're probably not losing your memory, but having so many things to keep track of that it's difficult balancing your responsibilities. I noticed that in my mom's life, for example, that oftentimes she's really good at remembering small details, but when she has a lot of things stressing her out, she's not as good. But then the moment she has some more peace, again, it comes back to her. So it's not about her mind coming and going, but the level of stress that she's under. And I believe that likely applies for you too. that if you are experiencing a lot of stress right now, that might be the cause of some feeling like you're losing your memory. And the best way to eliminate stress is to reevaluate your role. Recognize where you're over exerting yourself, where you don't have to, or the responsibilities that you've taken that are not yours but others. And can you be a little kinder to yourself? That can really help clear your mind and allow it to have some more order, and your ability to recollect yourself is going to be increased dramatically. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your subscription. I look forward to seeing you every day that you come, and you're never expected to be here either. But your presence is appreciated. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Thank you for your half a dozen roses that you had sent to. Om Namah Shivaya. Dear Kelly, thank you for the hand hearts that you had sent to. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namaha. Daisy, you love Mahjong. That's a great memory game, I think, if I remember correctly. And dear Dasha, thank you for your cheer you up. Radhe Radhe. Dear Jay, you had asked, is this a simulation? Well, a simulation of what? Is there anything outside of this universe that's more real than what we're experiencing now? I think if you're thinking like that, then there must be something in this moment that we're trying to run away from. Now, it's true that this world is full of things that come and go, and the temporariness of this life can bring the realization that true happiness or freedom is not found in the world. And that's true. But that doesn't mean the world is a phenomenon that's not real or meaningful in any way. We just have to reassess what its purpose is. If we had got its purpose wrong, then that doesn't necessarily mean that we're in the wrong spot, but we can shift our perspective for what it means to have a world. Right now, the feeling that this is a simulation comes from a kind of dissatisfaction or unfulfillment or incompleteness. We feel like there's something missing, but remember that nothing that happens to you experientially, in terms of sights, sounds, smells, tastes, feelings, or thoughts, could ever complete you, because you are not missing experiences of the senses. What we are missing is a realization of our true self. And our true self is not dependent on the objects of the world for happiness. Our true self is the source of happiness. So once we switch our role from trying to get happiness from this world to expressing happiness in the world, then we finally feel that completion. And we recognize the role we have in this world, not as a being to extract happiness, but express happiness. And right now we're just waiting for the right moment to express it. We're waiting for that object that'll give us the permission slip to express joy through. Because that's all the experiences of the senses do. They momentarily line up with a moment where we feel like we're allowed to be happy. But the truth is that you're allowed to be happy wherever you are. You are happiness itself. Thank you, dear Bastion, for your trio of roses. Quartet of roses, actually. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Now, you could never simulate consciousness, dear Strawberry Star Bunny. Why? Because consciousness is the ultimate simulator. There's nothing about it that can be created, that can be made or modified. Consciousness is the spiritual space for things to be created in, modified, and dissolved back unto. So even if somehow the world before us was made by something larger than this universe, you are not an illusion. You could never be, and that includes the part of yourself that you see in everyone around you too. The fact that you are part of something in which there are multiple beings here could never be disproven. That is the fundamental fact of our reality. And thank you, Jay, for your rose and beating heart. Dear Kristen, thank you for your rose too. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Pardon me for clearing my throat. Dear Lazio, you wonder if I agree that Freemasonry is materialistic disguised as spirituality. I don't know, but it's not my duty to look for the faults in those around me. As long as I look for the good, then I'm learning something, and as long as I'm working on my own faults, then I serve as a role model for those around me. I don't know much about how Freemasonry operates, but I see that they do have a lot of mystery surrounding them, and that of course always breeds speculation. But instead of using that uncertainty to doubt, I'll instead look to what is certain, and I see that they and many other organizations, they fundraise for children's hospitals and do parades which bring joy to many people's faces, and I think that's a wonderful thing. I know that everyone has their own limitations and no person or organization is perfect, and that's okay, because I don't want to live in a perfect world. I want to live in a world where there's room for improvement, for possibility to emerge, and I'm happy to make a difference wherever I can, and leave the rest to the universe. Thank you, dear Charlie, for the flowers you had sent. Om Tham Namaschandaraya. And dear Charlie, thank you for your flowers and hat and mustache. Radhe, Radhe. I love that, dear Vince. If everything were perfect, we wouldn't evolve. And Strawberry Star Bunny, thank you for your rosa. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you for sharing the live, dear Hybrid Jen. Il Panic, you wanted to ask if there's a chant that I prefer and why. No chant in particular. Whatever gets you singing, that's your song to sing. Whatever gets your voice and allows it to be heard by the universe, follow that tune. And it may sound different for everyone, but if we zoom out, we hear the subtle harmonies come together. Thank you, dear Scott, for your rose. Hare Krishna. And Butterfly, thank you for your rose. Welcome, dear Aaron, and Josh, and Fuzzy Monkey Noise. I hope you are all feeling that you're enough in this moment, and in case you need that reminder, please allow me to reflect that whatever you're trying to do for yourself, it's going to get better. And you don't have to wait until things are better for you to accept yourself. You can accept the things that are already on their way to you as your inevitability. Thank you for the follow, dear Bridget. Michelle, you ask if I know how to solve a 4x4 Rubik's Cube. You're failing miserably. Or are you failing perfectly? And that every time that you end up where you were before, that you learn one more way not to solve a 4x4 Rubik's Cube. I don't know myself the exact combinations and permutations required to solve it, but I know that if you keep trying, you'll continue to learn, and one day I'm sure you'll get it. Dear N. Kaimaden, you share you feel so sick right now, but you don't know if you should go to the ER. Just keep waiting till you fall asleep. But you don't want everyone to worry about you so much in case it's just a lack of rest. Hey, you should always be better safe than sorry. If you're worried about other people judging you for coming even though you're not sick, my goodness, you've got your priorities all wonky. Your health is a much better, bigger priority than the way people think about you. If you're okay, then that'll be easily checked out. Doctors would much rather you come, even if you're not in need of emergency care, than actually be in emergency care and not go. So I do trust your judgment, and if you're debating over going or not, then I would recommend that you go, that you are allowed to get the help that you need. But I think it's deeply empathetic that you care about possibly taking up resources or other people's time, but don't worry. That's not your call to make, that's the doctor's call to make. Welcome, the Raging Light. You sure I look different? Well, I feel the same, and I'm grateful to have you here, the very same divinity within you as always. Hello, dear Mark Smith. Hello, dear the Oracle reads. Om Mani Padme Hum. Butterfly, you share that our environment has the tools, we just need to tap into them. Everything we need is accessible in this moment. The universe is very efficient that way. Hello, dear Crossfires. And Hia de la Luna. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming here. I would like to begin the next chapter of our book, Moksha, Liberation, with you. We recently finished the first chapter, of the first part. This is a book about an American woman who was actually the mother of the universe incarnate, but she has forgotten her true identity. And so the father of the universe, Shiva, incarnating as Siddha, has come to open her mind to realize her true self. There's a little bit of a B plot happening between the chapters where the true self within Siddha, Shiva, is engaging in his divine lila, or play or pastimes. Recently they went through a temple in India, and there was unfortunately this elephant that was chained up. So I guess Siddha went back as Shiva. Within the inner chamber of the great temple, Siddha Shiva Rudra, the Lord of the cosmos, loosened the chains that bound the dying elephant's legs. He pressed his face against the sensitive folds of the animal's vast side to draw away the pain. The elephant responded with a slight snort that seemed to take some effort. Siddha then set about forcing open the heavy teak doors and gently coaxed the animal into stepping back until they had cleared the chamber. "I need your help," Siddha said in a soft, low voice. Darkness surrounds her. It is all that she is aware of, but she is beginning to remember. He heaved himself onto the animal, and the two moved onto the street and made their way toward the remnants of a forest. It was broad daylight. No one stopped them. No one gave them a second glance. When they reached a dry riverbed, the elephant lowered itself to let Siddha alight. Siddha patted it lightly on the rump to encourage it to go on without him. The animal dutifully lumbered on its turned back to see Siddha seated cross-legged in Chin Mudra, his eyes half closed. A light cooling rain sprinkled down, and the elephant grunted in appreciation and made its way toward the land of its ancestors. Chapter 2. May this reading relax your mind and awaken your heart. Querida, querida! Pepe screamed from a mezzanine window as I came up the path dragging my suitcase. Moments later, he flung open the front door. "What happened?" he said, still very loudly. "You a day early." Pepe, my business partner and comrade at arms, was given to excesses of expression, but his falsetto shrieks of delight were a sure sign something was amiss. I was exhausted. My abrupt departure from the conference seemed an inspired move that expressed my disdain for the marbled-clad rooms, the pillow mattresses, and the sophisticated, nuanced seminars. But instead of the luxury van previously arranged to cover the 100 or so miles to the convent where Pepe and I lived and worked, my early return involved a filthy train and an overflowing, odorous, rickety bus that stopped for anyone who waved it down. There was also the final mile of trudging in the late afternoon heat on a gravelled, treeless road. No sooner had I stepped off the bus than a dark skeletal boy snatched my suitcase and dragged it in the dirt until I had to wrench it from him and pay him off. All along, from low doorways of mud huts, dark skeletal figures quietly observed my stumbling progress, but did not interfere. Pepe grabbed my bag. "What the hell, Pepe?" I cried as he straightened. His left eye was swollen shut, and there was purple bruises on his face and arms. One hand was bandaged. He lurched forward, and I reached out to steady him. "The girls," he said. "They gone. That man, Raja." "What?" "He came with some men from the village. I tried to stop them. They took..." "What do you mean, Pepe?" "They beat me and took the girls. I did not stop them." A few months earlier, During a drenching monsoon downpour, Pepe chanced upon 5 small girls huddled against the convent wall like a litter of kittens slated for drowning. They ranged in age from about 3 to 9. One had been blinded in one eye, one had a broken leg, 2 had serious burn scars, and the smallest was running a high fever. All had bruises from beatings. Pepe carried them into the warehouse, dried them off, and fed them. What happened next was surprising. "I take care of them," Pepe insisted. "When my mama and papa shot by militia, I take care of my 6 sisters." Mother Gabriel, our boss, was not pleased. The care of 5 sickly children who had been discarded by their families and who did not possess the legitimate status of refugees had no role in the Vatican's vision for her newly minted NGO. But when no one offered to take them in their present condition, she relented. "They stay only until they get better," she said severely. Pepe agreed and efficiently went about emptying a trash-filled lean-to at the far end of the compound to house them. He bought the girls clothes and arranged for them to be fed at the convent kitchen, mostly food scraps for which they had to wait outside. Pepe could converse in any language badly, and he worked up as much of the local lingo as he could, but communication with the girls was entirely one way. In a ceremony involving flowers, incense, camphor, and an oil lamp, he went on to bestow names on them since none of them would or could say their names. At first, he set simple tasks for them outdoors, sweeping our makeshift loading dock and watering the few straggly plants. One day I found them in the warehouse stapling bills of lading and invoices. They quickly bent their heads to their task when I passed by. The oldest girl, at the possible age of 9, her face scarred by burns, was a mother to them all. Pepe had the proverbial heart of gold. His compassion knew no bounds, but his utter devotion to the girls puzzled me. It was an unwritten rule that NGO staff could not personally get involved with the lives of the people they served. In addition, these girls were not refugees. It was not our brief to help them. But how could I dissuade him when he had done exactly the same for me? A few years back in Western Sahara, at a foul-dense habitation on a rocky swath surrounded by desert, 2 men had burst into the clinic where I was working late taking inventory. They were friendly at first, but soon one of them pulled out a knife and demanded I open the storage room. They proceeded to methodically load up their pickup with unopened boxes of medical supplies. "Those medicines are useless," I shouted when they were about to leave. "Garbage, expired, they are old. It is what they send us." This outburst angered them. One moment, I have to affirm to TikTok that the stream is indeed live by solving a one-piece puzzle. Yes! I successfully solved the world's hardest puzzle. This outburst angered them, and the man with the knife came forward, pushed me onto the floor, and stabbed me repeatedly. Several hours later, Pepe, a security guard at the camp, noticed that the clinic door was wide open. He found me on the floor, curled up in a pool of blood, fading in and out of consciousness. He wrapped me in blankets and drove the 20 or so miles to a rudimentary bush hospital. After I was patched up, he carried me to his room, changed my bandages, and fed me soups. "It was my fault," I said. The 2 men became angry when I told them the medicines were past their shelf life. "It's true, tax deductions for the rich, discards for the poor." It's not what they needed to hear. "When you get better, you go home," Pepe said. "This is a bad place. You go home, to America." In the course of my recovery, I discovered that Pepe and I had complementary skills, not particularly remarkable on their own, but marketable if teamed up. We were both desperate to get out of the dark continent, but no desire to go, quote-unquote, home. When we proceeded to fashion ourselves as development and logistics duo, our tagline, 2 for the price of 1, wily Mother Gabriel, a continent away in rural South India, bought into our value proposition. We moved at once and became the only 2 paid employees of the Sisters of the Poor, a minor Catholic charity with big plans. South India. The tourist brochures listed white beaches, magnificent temples, wildlife and bird sanctuaries, and the place where Tamil was spoken, the oldest living classical language, dating back to the pre-Aryan Mohenjo-Daro and the Harappa Indus Valley civilizations. My kind of place, Pepe, I said. Paradise. Pepe was skeptical. To his way of thinking, every paradise has its snake, but when we received no other offers, he reluctantly agreed to try out the Sisters of the Poor. We arrived at the convent door in the middle of summer on the hottest day of the year. Pepe in a pale blue, ill-fitting suit that emphasized the large pools of sweat around his armpits, and I in a loose cotton salwar kameez, listing to one side, pale and sick. Mother Gabriel looked us up and down and was not impressed. She did not let us in, but pointed to a derelict brick structure in a far corner of the compound, which was where we were to work and live. The convent house was out of bounds. Pepe soon cleared the building and brought in electricity and water, and I, unable to do much physical labor, set up our files and computers. My job was to solicit grants and donations from first world consortiums and manage the supply chain. Pepe took over the building, hauling, logging, and securing of sacks of powdered milk, tins of meats and beans, medicines and bandages, and various miscellaneous items that faraway donors found they could do without. Actual distribution within the neighboring refugee settlement was cleverly left to the native novice nuns, the humble face of the Sisters of the Poor, since my blue-eyed blondness branded me as the enemy, a fake foreign do-gooder, and Pepe's brownness coupled with his willingness to take on any task labeled him as a despised no-caste. On the surface, the surrounding countryside appeared to be a gentle place that had, for the most part, escaped foreign invasions, massacres, and dominance. Age-old traditions of classical dance, poetry, literature, and music were allowed to flourish without interruption, while new ideas were quietly assimilated. There was poverty, but not the despair I had seen elsewhere. Even the Sri Lankan refugees at the camp adjacent to the convent seemed to have blended seamlessly into the land's rhythm and customs. Pepe, I said one morning, you once said I should go home. I have. This place is home. He grunted. My Yankee optimism had no place in his gloomy worldview. We were an unlikely pair. Pepe and I, the quintessential odd couple, Pepe's stocky, muscular stature, androgynous, flat, broad face, black, curly hair doused with Vaseline, pug nose, and wide mouth made him one of those foot soldiers out of a Mayan bas-relief. His sexual ambivalence, I could see him sleeping with male, female, or goat, suited me. I was a head taller, lanky, and strictly commonplace in my carnal leanings, whereas he favored the exotic. We reveled in our differences. We never spoke of our origins or why we did this work, both knowing that we could never fully explain ourselves, so why bother? We were the people we invented. We were happy then, working hard, honing our skills, and making plans for the future. That is, until the 5 damaged girls barged into our lives and our troubles began. Now the girls had been taken. I'll get the girls back, Pepe, I said. I promise. I'll talk to Air Commandant. Look, I'm going right now. And we'll pause the reading of Moksha, liberation, there for now. So thank you for listening. I love that our Siddha, secretly, Siddha Shiva Rudra, is already making divine changes in the world around her, from freeing the elephant that she empathized with, to meditating somewhere in the jungle, hoping to bring more light into our dear protagonist's eyes, and some more backstory between our associate Pepe. And now that we have come to realize that they take care of these little girls, they have become stolen again. How can they get them back? That is a cliffhanger we'll have to explore next time. What I really love is the inherent contradiction between the plot, which is to make our protagonist more peaceful, and the fact that she already feels like she's living a righteous life. But deep down, there's still an identification with the doership, that she's only doing good because it fuels her ego, that she feels like she has to because no one else would do it, which is still better than not helping out. But in the highest spiritual sense, we have to even let go of our doership to really deeply become happy, so that the work we do is not out of a burden that we are forced to carry, but an honor in the world that is our space to express our divine nature. And all that help comes from our higher self, and we are just the instruments to see it happen. And I'll love to see that contradiction play out as we continue to read. And I look forward to reading to you next time. But we'll pause there for now and transition into our middle portion of the Sangha, dedicated to Manana. Q&A, and my attention can return entirely on comments, and we can explore anything in our hearts and minds together. I am your servant. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for your pair of stars and half a dozen roses that you sent while we read, and welcome everyone who did join while we were reading too. Ram Ram. And thank you, dear Kev, for your heart me and for your liking of the live. Never expected, but always appreciated. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. While we were reading, Cece was walking out at 3:41 in the morning, and foxes surround you. How magical is that? I love that. And hello, dear Chris, whose username is someone flipping a table. I haven't read any of the Bhagavad Gītā in this live, but if anyone does want to listen to my reading of it on my Yamsox ASMR YouTube channel, I've been reading whispered chapter at a time with rain sounds in the background, which I think is a unique way of listening to this ancient scripture, this divine song. We can crack open a verse, a random verse given to us by the universe for us right now. I pray that it is one which is universally applicable. Oh, I opened to the first verse of the 15th chapter, where Krishna, the divine, says to Arjuna, and through Arjuna to all of us, they, the wise, say that the peepal tree P-I-P-A-L, representing the material world, which has its roots representing unmanifested divine consciousness upwards, and its branches representing our nature, our mind, our modes of nature, attributes of these modes, senses, etc., along with their manifestations like desire, ego, and pleasure, downward, and of which the Vedas, the revelations of the divine, are the leaves as its protector, and it is imperishable, being a reflection of the spiritual world. One who knows this metaphor is the knower of all the revelations. That is an ancient depiction of the tree of life. And upside down, which is a beautiful, beautiful twist. The roots are in the higher self, and the branches extend down into the lower self. And the ultimate expression of that higher self is the leaves, as the knowledge that is expressed on the level of the material world, and all the divine stories that happen all around us, all of the time. Thank you, dear Isabella, for the finger heart that you had sent. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Sky Guardian, to balance things, since I'm doing a reading of the Bhagavad Gītā whispered, the next time I should do it Screamo style. That'll get people's attention. You know, one way to wake someone up is indeed to yell at them. But let me tell you, they'll just want to go right back to bed immediately after. But if you wake someone up with a gentle whisper, saying, "Hello, beautiful. The sun has risen just for you, and I look forward to see what you make of the world today. I've brought you bed and breakfast, and I've taken care of some things so that you don't have to." My goodness, you'll want to wake up. Even if your dreams were wonderful, if you wake up into something even more wonderful, you'll want to stay awake. Can I record that for your alarm? Which version? The whispering or the screaming? See, I usually put an alarm that was, you know, just absolutely blaring. That would get me up, but then I'd hate being awake. So instead, at one point I changed it to SpongeBob music, because that's my favorite show growing up. And I'd wake up feeling like SpongeBob, ready to start my day. And it took a little longer, but that's okay. I'd much rather take longer and actually want to be awake than otherwise. Thank you for sharing the live, dear Talon. And someone whose name appears to be Moonlight. I love that. Dear Dawn, welcome. And thank you for your kind words. What do I think of those who miss out on expression here, believing the leaves and roots will flip? That's a great question. I have faith that they are right where they need to be in their journey too. And as long as I am working on myself, then I can be a mirror for the possibilities that exist in everyone else. And once they're ready to catch their reflection and recognize it, then that's something I patiently await for. Thank you, Moonlight, for your pair of roses. I have to tell you the Moonlight mantra. Just my dharma. If your name is Moonlight, you have to know the Moonlight mantra. Everyone knows that sunlight provides for the plants. Plants get their energy from the sunlight. It's said that humans get their energy, their spiritual energy, from the moonlight. An ancient word in Sanskrit for moonlight is soma, and it carries the implication of it being something that you can drink. So it's often called the drink of the gods, soma, the elixir of life, the nectar of immortality. It's a synonym for amrita, which literally means the nectar of immortality. So there is a mantra that beckons our own receptivity to that nectar of immortality, called the Moonlight mantra. It starts with Om, like almost all mantras do, the cosmic syllable of existence. And then it has the word Namaha at the end, which means salutations to thee. And then the dative form of Soma, which is Somaya, which means to Soma. And before that is a very sacred and often secret syllable, and that is the seed syllable of the moonlight itself. In Sanskrit, there is the concept of there being certain sounds that are like seeds that you can plant in your consciousness and grow them. And the seed that grows Soma, moonlight within ourself, is Som. Altogether, the Moonlight mantra is Om Som Somaya Namaha. Om Som Somaya Namaha. Om Som Somaya Namaha. Om Som Somaya Namaha. Thank you for your roses, dear Moonlight. Dear Dawn, you share, you always fear for what happens for people in the meantime. Don't worry. I appreciate your empathy, but they're divinely protected in their own way too. There's no way for them to ever be apart. And I'm using that in the way of being separate. It's funny. Apart is one of the few words that can be used to mean separate or together. So let me just use the word separate. No one can ever be separate from the possibility of discovering happiness and peace. That's in everyone's ability. And what they're dealing with is their own karma. And their own karma is a system that is functioning successfully, and we don't have to be the karma police for anyone else. Nature will settle things for them. It's only a matter of time. As long as we are focused on our own spiritual growth and we are serving others, then that is enough. Yes, I can write the mantra for you, dear Moonlight. And you can take a screenshot of it. I'll put it up on screen. give it to you in both Devanagari, which is the traditional script for rendering mantras. And it's said that even looking at Devanagari is like chanting the mantra itself. And then I'll give you the International Alphabet of Sanskrit transliteration, which is how it's rendered using Latin characters and diacritics for pronunciation. Om Som Somaya Namaha. Actually, the top is getting cut off. Allow me to make sure that you're able to see the top. There, did that work out? Now you can't see the bottom. Oh, now we can see both the top and the bottom. Goldilocks would be happy. There are literally only 3 things that you have to know in order to pronounce this. Just what this diacritic above the A is, the diacritic below the H and the M. All it is just indicating that's a little different than how you would pronounce it if you're pronouncing it in the regular Latin alphabet. We'll just start with the M with a dot under it. That's called the Anuswara, which you don't have to remember, but it's pronounced by bringing the resonance in your body to the highest place that a sound can resonate. And isn't that very symbolic? You can make sound resonate deep in your gut. You can also bring it higher into your chest, throat, mouth. The highest place for a sound to resonate is the nasal cavity. It's said to be the most auspicious sound. So it's not exactly an M, which is produced at the lips, but produced in the nasal cavity. It sounds like the sitar, you know, from the magical soundscapes of Indian music. Oh, you really feel the vibration as high as it can go in the head. Om, Om, Som. Then the next M after that in Somaya is your regular M, but it's followed by an A with a line over it, and that means it's twice as long as you normally pronounce it. In Sanskrit, vowels can either be single length or double length. If there isn't a line over top, then it's single length. If there is a line over top, then it's double length. But there are exceptions to that. O's and E's are always double length. And the O in Om is triple length. That's just because Om is special. Om is triple length, Som is double length. And then the A at the end of Somaya and the A's in Namaha are each single length. I'm telling you the pronunciation because correct pronunciation truly unlocks the highest potential of these sacred ancient sounds. And finally, that H with a dot at the end is an expulsion of breath. It's like whatever breath was remaining in your chest, you just let it out. Namaha. Namaha. It's so beautiful. It's a grammatical feature of Sanskrit. To mark the object of the sentence, you breathe out into it. You literally release your breath into what you're bringing your attention to. Om Som Somaya Namaha. Om Som Somaya Namaha. Om Om Som Somaya Namaha. And that's the Moonlight mantra. Please take a screenshot of it before I minimize it. And thank you, dear Moonlight, for your 14 roses. Om Tham Namaschandraya. And that's a mantra for the moon itself. But before we go into that, thank you, dear Megan, for your ice cream cone. Om Sum Suryaya Namaha. And that's a mantra for the sun. There's a mantra for everything. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. That's for you, Inevitable, and thanking you for your trio of roses. And dear Shannon, I like you point out the connection between Om and Om as the unit for resistance in electronics. That reminds you, dear Sky Guardian, you wanted to ask your Guruji if he's heard of Om Brahman. Oh, absolutely. Yes, without a doubt. If he knows the etymology of Brahman, which I'm sure he does, then he will know its stem. Brahman, the most important word in Advaita Vedanta, perhaps. That is just a modification of the word Brahm. Just like how in English there are various stems of words and we attach on prefixes and suffixes. The root brh becomes the stem brahm, which means expansion, and then Brahman means the all-expansive one, meaning that which is pervading everything. That's a fun fact for you. I'd love to hear what Swamiji has to say on that. And dear Hia Della Luna, thank you for your little crown. Om Hrim Namah Shivaya. The only S. Hello, my friend. You were wondering what the benefits of the mantra we just showed us. The benefits of that mantra is to become more receptive to Soma, Moonlight. But the secret I have yet to reveal is it's not referring to physical moonlight, but rather our inner moon. Referring to the Bindu chakra that exists symbolically beneath the cowlick behind our head, in which drops of Amrita, Soma, the nectar of immortality, fall, and unless caught by our throat chakra, are burned in the fire of our solar plexus chakra. Dear Illust Philosophy, you ask if I can vibe with the concept that God is to morality what the concept of the infinite is for calculus. I like that. I definitely see where you're coming from. In calculus, the infinite is a limit. And so you could say that God is the limit of morality, in the sense of the convergence of the highest personification of morals. I see a lot of truth in that. Welcome, dear Maya. Om. And dear Don, you share, you've always thought of God as the manifestation of fulfillment or the ending of your karmic journey. I see the truth in that too. And dear Innovision, you would ask of me to give my perspective on a divine counterpart. Well, you see, there's only two things in existence. Counterpart. Well, you see, there's only two things in existence. Disconnected me for a moment. If my connection has returned, please let me know so that I may respond to dear Innovision. We're back, okay. There are really two parts to existence. And I'll draw it in the same way I drew it a couple live streams ago, as two layers of reality. And I'm going to draw it upside down. So I'm going to draw a tree here, an upside down tree, an upside down person, and you'll see why I'm drawing it like this, and maybe a house with a door and a roof. I'm narrating what I'm drawing because you might not be able to recognize it either. So the two realities here is the reality of consciousness or spirit, which is higher, and the reality of Maya, material existence, which is lower. You'll notice that I've drawn some details in material existence to make it more familiar. I've included trees and people and houses, but you know, the sun in the sky would be here too, and various other clouds and birds, grass, whatever. And I haven't drawn in anything for the other plane of existence. And that's because the other plane of existence doesn't have form, and that's the purpose. There's one plane of existence which is just witnessing, experiencing, feeling, seeing. And that's the spirit which illuminates the world, the all-pervading cosmic witness. And parts of it appear looking through the eyes of the people in it, appear through the trees and the blades of grass, etc. These are the divine counterparts in the universe. There's all the stuff in it, the things, the objects. That's the matter. And then there is the witness that pervades all of it, which is doing the experiencing, the knowing, the witnessing. That's God. That's the soul. That's the heart of hearts, the life of life, the Purusha, Shiva, love, space, understanding, awareness, etc. And the world itself is the form. It's the energy. It's the story. Our bodies exist at that level. It's creation and creator. The experiencer and the experienced. And these are the divine counterparts. And we live in both always. Our nature exists first at the level of consciousness because that's the subject, and second at the level of body and mind and world around us, and that's the universe, the matter, and they are the divine counterparts. So when we say you're not the body, not the mind, we're trying to get you to return your identification back into the source that pervades it all. And you zoom out to see yourself not bound by the objects, but only witnessing through them, looking through them as your instruments to experience a story that we call life. I hope that makes sense. You can tell me if that resonates with you. And thank you, dear Bobby Sue, for the team cheers you had sent. Om Namah Shivaya. And dear Kristen, for your naughty chicken. Thank you. Om Kring Kali Kaye Namaha. And dear Innovision, thank you for the pinch face. Radhe Radhe. I love that illust philosophy. The subject is like a rose on a vine connected to something deeper. And thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your rose. Welcome, dear Liam and Damien. Its flower may pass quickly, but the vines live on. Beautiful. Oh, bat emoji, you wonder, what is my religion? My religion is that I believe in the possibilities that exist within everyone, including you. And I believe that there's a possibility for all of us to come together as one and recognize that we are not independent beings, but forms through which we are living as expressing a source that we're all a part of. And thank you, Innovision, for your pair of tiny tinies. Yippee! How mischievous, dear King. Yes, G2 Infinity likes this song, the piano song. I have a question for all of you. If you're interested in exploring it together, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you, Caveman Joe. I just have to get it prepared because I was using my text box for the mantra for Dear Moonlight. But I saved the question of the day and I just have to put it back. Here we are. Today I ask, what is a responsibility for humanity? And please interpret this in any ways that you feel free to respond in. There's no wrong answer and there's no right answer. Dharma, share Sky Guardian. Yes, I like that. Balance shares me. Ahimsa shares Sky Guardian. Illust philosophy, you shared the responsibility is to the systems humans live in, not humanity per se. I love the way you put that. Very practical. And I love yourself, you share, to learn and grow respectfully for self. Oh, so wonderfully put, I love yourself. I like your little ASCII face, Kristen. That's cute. In a vision you share, to take accountability for what you have done and what we must do. Yeah, definitely. Word to be happiness, shares Kev. Well, I'd be interested to know further what you mean by that, but sounds good. Crossfires, you share to guide the youth with love and light. You know, I always feel like it's the youth who guide us, because they remind us of so much love and light that maybe we have forgotten along the way. Altruism, shares Michelle. I appreciate you, I love yourself. And thank you for sharing the life, dear Mero. Dear Scott, you're right, to live as one and still respect uniqueness. Yes. Well said. Dear Codeman, you share, try to be the best version of you. Oh, thank you for being receptive to the nature of hugs, dear Alicia. Secretly, there's enough room. Actually, it's not a secret. It's so obvious. There's enough room for us all to embrace each other and give us the space to discover the possibilities that we have to manifest. And dear Steve, you share, to find one's gift gives meaning, and giving it away is one's purpose. That's beautiful. I'm happy that resonated with you, dear Crossfires. And the only S you share, responsibility is the ability to respond, and you'd say to have fun and observe, share love, and to live. I like that. I can't disagree with that, the only S. Sounds like you speak from a place of deep understanding. Live authentically and help boost others, shares Kristen. I like that. Like the trees and the sea that wish to return with us, shares Dawn. You write such poetic words, dear Dawn. Thank you for sharing the life, dear G to Infinity. And welcome, Aang. Going to sleep at a responsible time, shares King. That is important. Okay, group hug, shares Kev. Alright. I gotta come there. A big group hug. You matter, and you're important. And you deserve to rest from all of the meanderings of one's mind to things that don't truly matter. What really matters is that we can be here now, in presence and in peace. And Dawn, you share to leave the door open for the eternal future. That's beautiful. You are all very lovely. You know, even though we are spiritual beings having a human experience and not humans having a spiritual experience, the reason it's important to embrace our humanhood is because you can't hug a spirit. That divinity, that source of all sources, has become manifest through all of us so we can hug each other. So we can high five and hold hands. Can't do that if you're a formless blob. Or at least it's made more challenging. I'm happy you are making food for tomorrow, dear Alicia. That's a great way to be prepared, and glad that you're feeding yourself. And your future self will thank you. Oh my goodness, Past Me made food for me. I love Past Me. Past Me is the best chef, the best cook, the best baker. Welcome, dear Cynthia. Doing things for the infinite unknown, shares Dawn. I love that. I like your ability to express yourself through little characters, dear Kristen, on your keyboard. That's a very creative ability. A reminder of times on the internet before we had access to emojis. We had to invent our own emoticons through the use of ASCII and later Unicode art. And Kev, you share, you do know some don't like hugs though, and that's okay too. What a great reminder of people's boundaries and personal space. Yes. For those, we can hug in other ways, like hand hugs. You can take your hand. You ever notice? Thumb is like your left hand, pinky's like your right hand. Take your thumb and your pinky, and you can give a hand hug to another person. Hug, 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 hug. Or you can just hug the space around them. Especially if they're a cactus, or if they're prickly in other ways. A guru by the name of Pujya Swami Dayananda Saraswati Ji, he would say, hug everyone, but hug some people from a distance because they're like cacti. I look so pure, shares S. Hey, the only S. You've got competition here. There's another S. What do you say about that, the only S? Well, don't let looks fool you. Purity is an inner quality. But the way to discover what's within a person is to be patient and see what comes out. Oh, whoa, 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 shares the only S. Oh, well, I'm happy to talk on the nature of boundaries, dear Eleni. They are important and vital for healthy relationships. Hello, Boo. That was my nickname when I was younger. I think my father's mother called him Boo Boo, and so it was natural for me to be one Boo. So from one Boo to another, Boo. What's the opposite of Boo? What's the opposite of scaring someone? Oob. I guess you could say it backwards. And instead of making yourself big and loud, you make yourself small and quiet. Oob. S's unite, shares the other S. I like that. Two wholesome cowboys. This town is big enough for the two of us. Happy to share it with you there, partner. At sundown, you and me are gonna bake an apple pie for our mimas together. Till then, I'll be watching you. laughing with someone shares vavi. Yes, that is the opposite of scaring someone. Sharing vulnerability rather than exposing it. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you are really struggling, dear Sierra, but I'm happy that you find gladness here. And thank you, Vavi, for your tapping on the screen. Tap, tap, tap. Whatever you're going through, whatever you're struggling with, know that this too shall pass, and you won't. Difficulties pass, but whom they're affecting, they never pass. You are the unchanging part of the universe, alive and well forever and always. These two S's should be friends, shares G to infinity. They're both school. I like that. The curious guru, you ask, am I Buddhist or Hindu? I'm a human. And humans can be anything they like. At this moment, I am yours. Whether you are Buddhist, whether you are Hindu, whether you are Christian, whether you are of indigenous spirituality, I am yours. It's the beginning of alphabet soup, shares Kev. Yes, with all these letters here. And when you think about it, everything is just a remix of 26 letters, you know? The dictionary, everything is just a remix of the dictionary. And the dictionary is just a remix of 26 letters, you know? They're like atoms. And how cool is it that just from 3 different particles, a proton, a neutron, and an electron, you get an atom, and you can make 118 different kinds of atoms, or more, theoretically. And from that amount of atoms, we can make infinitely many different kinds of molecules, and from that, you can create organisms, cellular, organelles and cells and organs and organisms and ecosystems and planets and solar systems and galaxies and the whole shebang. Just from small, simple things, you can create vast, large, complex things. That's true, Kristen. I shouldn't forget my gluons or my quarks or my Higgs bosons. And the W and Z bosons. And the muons. But, hey. If you believe in the grand unified theory, it's all the same energy, just arranged in different ways. What is Baha'i? Asks Crossfires in My Thoughts. Baha'i is a wonderful opportunity for me to learn something new. And that's about as much as I know. Something that I could be more in understanding of. Dear Adrian, you ask, do I believe in grounding yourself? You are the ground. You are the firmament of this whole reality. To be grounded just means to be centered in your nature. Being grounded or not happens to the mind, to the body. And what we ground ourselves into is our original unchanging nature. And that is true, dear Kristen, that most of atoms are empty space. But have you ever thought of it like this? You know how in quantum physics, as I'm sure you are very interested, judging by your passion on this topic, there's the wave-particle duality. That on one hand, we can realize particles, as the units of our existence made up of little points. And if you think of atoms like that, then there's not just 90% empty space, not just 99% empty space, but truly, it's 100% empty space. Because a point-like particle is perfectly infinitesimal. It has no width, it has no depth, it has no height. It's just an indivisible point. So it's 100% empty space. But that's if you think of it like particles. If you think of it like waves, then there is no stop and start to any particle. And there's just a blurry, continuous, jelly-like field that pervades the entire universe. And on the wave side of things, therefore, there's no empty space at all. Everything is absolutely filled with the presence of energy. So on one hand, atoms are mostly empty space. On the other hand, they're 100% empty space. And on our middle hand, it's completely filled up. There's no space at all. Just depends on how you look at it. Thank you, dear Ushabai, for your flowers. Om Namah Shivaya. Dear King, you had asked, what do I think about string theory, vibrations becoming matter? Seems to be onto something. But is it really strings, you ask? I understand your suspicion of strings. It is a suspicious conclusion that the nature of everything is ultimately strings. But it's not just strings. They're higher dimensional strings, vibrating in ways that we can't comprehend. So they're no mere ordinary strings, like the strings we tie our shoes with, or the strings that we go fishing with. There's something much more mystical or magical. Now, I'm no physicist, but in my own curiosity of theories about the universe, string theory is correct in the sense that it has so many parameters to play with that it's guaranteed that at least one of them will line up with reality. The problem is it doesn't make for a very great testable theory then, because it means it's unfalsifiable. Which is good if you're trying not to be wrong. But not all of science is about being right. A huge portion of science is some room to allow yourself to be wrong. And so interestingly, not all of string theory makes for a great theory because there's so many possible string theories, plural, that one of them is guaranteed to be right. There's literally infinitely different many string theories, and at least one of them will be a succinct or sufficient explanation of reality. However, as long as we are laymen, ordinary folks who are not wrapping our minds around the higher dimensional mathematics of string theory, we can at least appreciate some of the essences, like the essence that all things are just vibrations. I think that's really appreciable. And you don't have to find that in string theory, in the standard model of particle physics. Everything is considered to be made up of quantum fields, which are made up of oscillations and vibrations. And in general relativity too, space-time is seen as this four-dimensional surface that can bend and vibrate in another way too. So even that essence is captured by currently accepted modern physics, and you don't have to go to string theory to find that. Thank you, dear Mark, for your quintet of roses. Om Bhram Hanumate Namaha. And dear John Simon, thank you for your heart me. Radhe Radhe. It's beautiful, dear Alicia. Yes, is the atom half empty or is it half full? It's both, yet neither. Yet neither both nor neither. It's completely full in its emptiness and completely empty in its fullness. I love that, dear King. There would be no life, no universe, no nothing without vibration. All of experience requires something changing or oscillating in order for presence to be felt, whether that be the vibration of air molecules or of the electromagnetic field itself, to hear or see, respectively. Hello, dear Jane. You sure you need some really specific advice? So I can give you some really specific advice. If you want to tape yourself to a wall, it's good to maximize the surface area which you sprawl out on the wall so that the static friction can hold you up, so you don't have to rely on too much tape. There's some really specific advice for you. Dear Giga Chad, I've been waiting till this day. Now you ask about something that I don't know what it stands for. If you could tell me what this stands for, you can let me know. Dear little holy stone, you ask about thoughts on toroids. There are beautiful parts of reality arising when you have a certain symmetric setup. Everything in nature, its form is determined by the symmetry of the forces that act on it. Toroidal symmetry is very specific and beautiful. It's the mathematical name for a donut shape. And they make up our reality in many different ways. Some people believe that it's possible that we live in a big torus, a big universal-sized donut. And that's because it's one of the possible configurations for a flat curvature universe. Curvature can either be positive, neutral, or negative. If the universe's curvature is positive, that means it should wrap around itself like a four-dimensional sphere, which just means that if you go in one direction, you should come back where you started. If it's negative curvature, then that means you should get lost very easily. You take a step in any direction and suddenly you don't know where you are because it's just more space than you think is there. It's like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. It's like everything was a TARDIS. That's a negatively curved universe. Hyperbolic space, that's called. But there are many ways in which you can have a flat universe, meaning that its curvature is on average neutral, neither positive nor negative. It should go on forever. But there's a way of folding even that flat universe into a shape that curls back in on itself. And that's like a Pac-Man screen. On Pac-Man, you go off the left, you come back on the right, you go up, you come back from the bottom. It's still flat. But if you think about the geometry of how that would work, the top would have to fold back down to the bottom, and the left and right would have to curl around, then that's the geometry of a torus, of a donut. Even if it doesn't feel like it when you're Pac-Man. That if you are in a universe that wraps around itself on that way, you can still have a flat curvature, but be in like a Pac-Man universe where if you still go in one direction, eventually you come back where you started. That's a fun thing to think about. But anyway, this is nice stuff to expand your mind, but for most of life, we don't need to be wondering about the geometry of the curvature of the universe in order to be better friends, be better students, be better parents, children, siblings, human beings. Something very lovely about knowledge is that it adds to our life, but yet is unnecessary in order for us to live meaningful and purposeful lives. Welcome, dear primitive eggs. Hello, dear MJ. AP stands for Astral Project, ask Giga Chat. Every night, every time we dream, we go into the dream world, also known as the astral world. There are 3 layers of reality. There's the physical, there's the subtle, and there's the causal. That middle one in Sanskrit is sukshma, and it's translated in many ways. Probably the most formal translation is subtle. It's the subtle body, the subtle world. That includes our 5 senses and our mind. It's in that level of reality that the subconscious exists. And it's also called the dream world or the astral world. I tend to prefer a formal translation of sukshma into subtle. But yes, every night, as we depart from the physical layer, we enter the subtle layer, which is variously called by different names. And it's important that we get familiar with what's happening at the level of our subconscious, because so much healing can happen there, since a lot of trauma can be at the level of the subconscious and not yet completely healed. Now, dear Lucas, you ask a very serious philosophical question, and welcome. How did the water get into the coconut? Maybe you should ask, how did the coconut get around the water? Dear John Simon, you had asked about my thoughts on the movie The Matrix. I think it's a very provoking and profound plot, and clearly one that has embedded itself in the subconscious of many watchers. I know that it was made off of many philosophical writings. As such, the actors in the movie, they had to read, I forget the book, but the certain dense philosophical book, all of them, all the main cast at least, in order to really understand their role. It's truly an exposition of a very profound ideas that have been thought about in some way for thousands of years. And it inspires many people to wonder similar things about the reality that we live in too. You might wonder about how real this world is too. I am not one of those people that feel like you have to escape this world, however, because I know that your true purpose and meaning can be found here. And I think it's a little challenging to express that perspective, especially to someone who's really in the middle of thinking like that. Because to tell someone that you don't have to escape it, well, that just sounds like the Matrix trying to get you, right? And I think that's where the danger can come in. Because if you really start thinking along those lines, then everything might sound like a trap or reverse psychology or something to keep you ensnared in a simulation. And at that point, then I think the concept of mental health really needs to be taken care of. To me, the spiritual path should never be one that provokes fear, because fear means you still have yet to understand something, because in understanding, fear dissolves. I know there are a lot of people who are stuck in the idea of thinking like this, and it's really sad, and I hope they get the help that they need. Matrix has a beautiful etymology, and it comes from matriarch. It means mother. And this actually stems from an understanding of ancient spirituality, that the universe is the mother and its source is the father. Such is why we call the source the Holy Father, and we call this Mother Nature. And the people that are trying to escape this nature, they're forgetting that they're part of their mother. This is the mother. You're trying to run away to the father. You can do that, sure. But the moment you get to the father's going to tell you, my child, why were you running away from your mother? Your mother loves you just as much as I do. Yeah, she might be much more expressive and dramatic than I am. But that's her nature. The reason we have a physical world is not to trick you. There's no deception going on. But to wake you up into realizing that you are, in essence, something that can outlast the changing times of your surrounding nature. The mother provides you with challenges in order for you to unlock your higher self. The idea that this world is an illusion comes from a modern reinterpretation of something called Advaita Vedanta, which is a tradition coming from ancient times of a non-dual philosophy of the Vedas, one of humanity's earliest revelations. And in the Vedas, they use the term Maya to refer to this material existence. And it's actually from Maya that we ultimately get, many thousands of years later, the term matrix. And just like we use the term matrix to mean an illusory kind of world, but also means the mother etymologically, Maya, as an ancient word in ancient philosophy, referred to the illusoriness of the material world, simultaneously honoring it as the Divine Mother. But what has been lost, according to a reinterpretation of Advaita Vedanta that's only happening in the last few centuries, called Neo-Advaita Vedanta, is that Maya is attributed to the physical world in the sense that it's not real. But that's not the original use of the word, and I want everyone to know that. That the illusory aspect of Maya doesn't refer to what's happening at the level of the body, at the level of society, at the level of the world. That is definitely real. It's just not you. The illusion is to think that you are part of the world. That's all. It's not to say the world doesn't exist or that you should have to escape it or that you're being deceived by it. The illusion is simply that we believe we're a part of the world. But the world is just where we express ourselves. We are part of the Father at the level of consciousness. And it's our bodies and minds and world that's a part of the Mother. And the Mother is the experienced, the creation, the expression, the energy. And the Father is the consciousness, the subject, the witness, and the perceiver. And that's your higher nature. So all these people that say that the world is an illusion, they haven't quite understood the meaning of the word Maya or matrix. Because this is the Divine Mother. And she is here for us to be able to have bodies and minds. The divine purpose of her is to give us a world for us to explore together, share experiences, have fun, to love and take care of things and work on creative projects and serve the nature, to become creators ourselves. The illusion only comes in when we think that that's all we are, is what we create, like the body, like our personality, like our possessions or occupation, that's the illusion. So that waking up to the illusion doesn't mean that you've escaped the Mother, but it means you finally recognize her for what she is. And you recognize yourself for what you are too. And now your relationship with the world can become that much more healthy. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for your little crown. 7 roses, another rose, and a baker's dozen worth of them. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Thank you for asking such an important question, dear John Simon. And Sabina, thank you for your heart me. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hello, dear Kevin. Thank you for sharing the live. The only S you share that you say Namaskaram to Mother Earth every day. I love that. Yeah, it breaks my heart. People who have yet to realize that this matrix is the matriarch. That all this matter is the Mother. Everything material is what's maternal. And she is divine. And she is all that there is. We have to embrace her, and respect her, and serve her. Yes, dear Sabina. We speak of the same thing, just in different ways. It is from the separateness that we feel like we have to accumulate something. It is from the separateness that we feel like we must prove ourselves and serve only this body and this mind. Because as long as we are identified with the objects of our experience, a part of the world, then we feel like we are limited and therefore must do everything we can to become defensive and offensive, to protect this and fight against that. It simultaneously happens that we realize our unity and the nature of the world being the Divine Mother and our consciousness the Divine Father, that these are not separate truths but the same as one. And I never want anyone to feel like the world before them is unreal by any sense. Nowhere in ancient scripture does it say that the world doesn't actually appear and that you don't actually have a family and the people around you are just illusions. Remember, the true dream is to feel like you are something separate from everyone else in the dream. But the dream itself is very real. It is the expression of that source. We are just saying things in different ways, that's all. Saying the same thing in different ways. When we say dream, that doesn't mean unreal. Dreams are very real. Dream doesn't mean that you're being fooled by it. No one is a fool on the spiritual path. Just like how we can have interpretations of our dreams that give us meaning and help us understand ourselves, so too, when we describe in ancient scripture the experiences before us as a dream, it's not to take meaning away from it. It is a wonderful and meaningful experience in the same way our dreams are wonderful and meaningful too. And when we awaken, it doesn't go away. And that's where the metaphor of dream disappears for me. Is that waking up doesn't mean the dream goes. I think that is a limitation of the analogy. What we wake up to is simply the fact that what happens circumstantially does not affect our true self. It's not like anything goes and suddenly you're no longer having a body or a mind. You absolutely will have a body and a mind, and after you wake up, as you continue to awaken, you will still have friends and family and a job. None of that disappears. The wool covering our eyes is not the circumstance, but the identification with the circumstance. It doesn't have to be anything abstract. Just the realization that your true happiness is not dependent on the outcomes of action. That's all. And the reason I emphasize putting it in that way is because otherwise we can get very lost in the metaphor. And coming from experience, it gave me a lot of anxiety to wonder about whether this world was real or not, and whether I was real. And that was an existential crisis arising from my misconception of the ways in which these words are being used. And I never want anyone to go through that anxiety, and thus it's my duty, my solemn responsibility to affirm that when they say that this world is something for you to wake up from, that it's not because you're under some illusion, under some false impression of reality, and that there is only you and that nobody else is real, because that can be really dangerous for people's mental health. As it affected mine, speaking from experience. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people being terrified of that idea, and they drive themselves a little nutty, like myself. So I want to be absolutely grounded in my vocabulary and affirm to everyone that this world genuinely is real, and you're allowed to be here, and that you're not under some illusion that things are one way and they should be another. It's really simple. And your ego is a wonderful thing because it never disappears either. And that's something that I want many people to know that the idea that your ego is somehow this enemy and that it's wrong to have one, it all comes from a place that could use more understanding. Your ego is a beautiful thing, and you don't have to kill it or destroy it or run away from it or have it go in any other way in order to become happy and peaceful. And I empathize with everyone who is scared because they are scared. There's no reason to dissociate yourself from the ego. Your ego is your sense of self. Your ego is the joystick for the whole system. Your ego is your God-given ability to have a sense of self. The problem is not having an ego. It's just that we use it in a limited way, and we can use it in much more selfless ways by expanding the notion of self. And that doesn't involve removing any part of you. No annihilationist philosophy or destructivity necessary. And everyone deserves to know that there's a path of spirituality that doesn't involve feeling like there's anything wrong with you or the world. True spirituality is never about removing a part of you or trying to run away from something or realizing that anyone was wrong in their own way, but just expanding one's notion of self, keeping an open mind, becoming more compassionate, patient, loving, accepting that there's room for many perspectives to coexist. And I fear that there are people whom we need to affirm because there have been various movements that have told them that there's something wrong with them, or that they're asleep or a sheep, or that they're living in an illusion, because that's not the way of the great sages that have come before us. They have never been one to say that you are wrong for this, or that you have this problem in you and that you'll never be happy, but that you're on the right path, that it's okay to be who you are in this moment, that you are beyond this world but also of it, and you have an ego. You are an ego. You have a body. You are a body. You have a mind. You are a mind. You are all of these things too. Just none of them in particular. And that's the catch, is when our sense of self gets stuck somewhere into only this or only that you're only a body or only a mind or only a personality. And it's true that there's something more than that we may call conscious awareness, spirit, soul. But if you feel like you're only that, then we make the very same mistake that we did whilst identified with the body or mind alone. So let us break free of our chains from identification of the world, but also only spirit. You are everything and nothing, all at the same time. The word for ego in Sanskrit is ahankara, and it's part of the inner faculties of our being. Just as we have outer faculties, we have inner faculties. We have 5 senses that connect us with the outer world, but we have 4 methods of processing those senses. The first is the manas, the mind. The second is the buddhi, the intellect. The third is the ahankara, the ego. And the fourth is the citta, the consciousness. And we need all of them. Just as to have a fully fledged life, we should make a world where more people have the ability to see, to hear, to taste, to smell, and to touch. And we should have a world where we attend to our mind, to our intellect, to our ego, and to our consciousness. The very same scriptures from which people misinterpret it to mean that the ego is an illusion, the scriptures tell us that the ego is a vital part of our reality, as is the intellect, the consciousness, and the mind and the other senses. The ego simply means having a sense of self, and even an enlightened being has a sense of self. It's just that their ego is enlightened. They have an enlightened ego. And all that means is that their sense of self includes others. That's all. To be enlightened simply means that your sense of self is not limited to this body and mind, but to every body and every mind. And you cannot live without an ego. It's impossible. To not have an ego means you don't have a mind either. And without a mind, you won't have a body. Because the body is found in the mind. The mind is found in the ego. And the ego is found in the consciousness. It's all within you and a part of you. You cannot experience anything without a body, and you cannot experience a body without a mind, and you cannot experience a mind without an intellect, and you cannot experience an intellect without an ego, and you cannot experience an ego without consciousness. Yes, consciousness can exist without those things, but then there's nothing else for you to see. Consciousness can exist without those things, but then there's nothing else for you to see. Just as the divine reveals to us in the Bhagavad Gītā thousands of years ago that the world comes from water, and water comes from fire, and fire comes from air, and air comes from space, but it continues. That space comes from mind, that mind comes from intelligence, that intelligence comes from ego, and that ego comes from self, as the first dissension. Everyone has an ego, and that doesn't make them a bad person. There are no bad people. It's just that we might use the words in different ways. What you refer to by this word might be used in a different way in different contexts. And so if there is a disagreement, it doesn't come from a fundamental difference of belief, but truly just a difference of word choice. Maybe most people use the word ego in a different way that I do, and that's okay. I'm only telling you how I use the word so that you understand. If you use it in different ways, that's okay. And I ask for you to explain how you use it so that I may understand you. But I hope that we can see past the differences in our word choices and find the unity behind them. There's always another way of putting things. And if I can put things in a different way for you, please let me know. Because I do not want our connection to be locked behind attachment to one usage of a word or another. deep inside all of us is the very same source that has created this whole universe. And at that level we are one. And all of our differences exist not at the level of being, but in the unique circumstances and experiences that we've had in this life so far. And we can respect our differences as they come from the same infinite source. But we can take refuge in our common ground, in what we share together. And that is what I'd like to explore with you. And thank you, Anna, for your ice cream cone. And for your hand hearts, dear MJ. Om Namah Shivaya. I love yourself, you share. So if the matrix is the mother, the matriarch, why do people want to escape the matrix? Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The real thing, the only thing we truly have to escape from, is that there's anything to escape at all. That everything you need is here within you now. And that's not to trick you. It's not to make you feel like there's something in the world that you have to have here, but to affirm your higher self, that everything you need is within you, wherever you go, at all times, all places. There's nothing to escape, because you're already whole now and in this moment. Dear Max, you share that for you, the word ego means that we're attached to some sense of self and have nothing but pride and arrogance. Gotcha. So it sounds like we were using our words in different ways, because that's not what I mean when I use that word. So we were actually talking about different things. No wonder it sounded like we were disagreeing, because the way which you used that word was different than I. Yes. No. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, certainly didn't have that kind of ego. But that's not the kind of ego I was talking about. I hope to affirm you in your faith and your practice, that we come from different perspectives, and we might use the same words, but in different ways. And that makes sense, because there are infinitely many different perspectives to have, but only so many words to use that they often overlap. So I'm grateful that you took the time to express what you meant in a different way. Now we can understand each other better. Thank you for your donut. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Thank you for sharing the live, dear Rianan. Alright, I love yourself. Now, you want me to explain what the matrix is, so we, the child or the children, are the nature of the two. This is the song. This is the dance. This is the play. There's an audience. There's a stage. And as the actors and props on that stage, the world provides us the props to tell our story, the different musical notes for us to sing melodies to, different bodies for us all to play our roles. That's the mother. And the father, the source, the consciousness, that is the audience and the stage, all at once, as the space, which is simultaneously the source of the witness within all of the actors and actresses, and the firmament in which it's all upheld. Like a canvas and the painting on it. The father is the canvas. The mother is the painting. And we need both in order to paint. Thank you, dear Lumi, for your heart me. Radhe, Radhe. And Sabina, you shared to you used the word ego in the sense of the part of us which thinks it has lost its connection to source. I see. I prefer to use words in a way that speak to possibilities rather than limitations. And so to me, I use the word ego as a possibility for us to expand our sense of self. And dear Kristen, you ask with a pill emoji, red or blue? Why choose at all when you know that your life is not dependent on the choices you make, but how you decide to live through each choice? It's not that one choice is wrong and another is right. It's up to you to make a choice right. There are no good decisions and bad decisions. There are just decisions and your ability to find goodness in each. Life is not bound by its mistakes because there's always the capacity to learn from them. As such, the timeline of our life may appear before us demarcated by deciding between this and that. But it's not about what exactly we choose. It's about our ability to be open, to reflect back on our choices and make better ones next time. It's about our humility when our choices do bring forth goodness. And that balance of accountability and humility is where our attention really deserves to be. And dear Dawn, you ask, do I believe there is an enemy, a force acting against your ability to live through choices? I choose to only believe in the power of good. What we call as enemy is just a friend that has yet to be understood. What we call as negative is just a space for more positivity. What we call as dark is just a space for light. And what we call as bad is just something which goodness has yet to blossom through. So I choose to look at things in a way that puts everything in the same category, Not good versus bad, or light versus dark, or positive versus negative, but one continuous blossoming of life in various stages of becoming. And we often associate with the parts that have already blossomed, and we call those parts good and wonderful. And the parts that have yet to blossom we might call as bad or evil or whatnot. But that means we have yet to recognize that there's something there that is still in the process of becoming. And if we can recognize, if we can bring our attention to the awareness, we can become aware of the goodness that's possible within everything and everywhere. Just as we say that the divine is the abode of goodness, and that the divine is omnipresent, then we have to conclude that that goodness must be within everything. But that doesn't mean it has come to expression equally in all places. Just as there are canvases that could hold a beautiful painting, but no one has yet painted on that surface yet, so too there are places in this world that are like canvases. And when we're attached to only paintings, in the completed sense, we don't see the value of there being a canvas. We just go, why isn't there a painting there yet? Not realizing that we are the ones that have to make use of those spaces and fill them in. And to me, that is the nature of all the suffering in the world. Just like someone who wants there to be a painting on every canvas, we look at the suffering and we go, why isn't there harmony and love there yet? Because no one's put love and harmony there yet. We have to do that. And we love to be painters and musicians and dancers, because the point isn't to result in something beautiful, but be a part of the process of creating beauty and love, etc. And that's our role. And thank you for the follow, dear Willow. Yes. We get to choose the purpose of the ego, dear Sabina. And we can choose to serve the body or the mind or the senses. We can choose to serve something small, or we can choose to serve something much larger. And let me tell you, it's just that much more satisfying to serve something infinite. And that means serving the potential that exists for everyone and everything. And remember that when the religions talk about idols and false idols, remember that they're referring to power and greed and wealth. They're referring to materialistic attainments. These are the false idols. But every form of the divine is valid, whether you prefer to dissolve into the formlessness, as many people in the Advaita Vedanta tradition of Hinduism do, or in Judaism, or in Islam. There is a kind of understanding that the divine is beyond any form in particular. Or if you choose to find a personification in one way or another, remember that it's not that any particular form is false. The true false idols, that's a funny sentence, the true false idols, the real false idols are the materialistic pursuits, like money, power, fame, etc. So I hope we remember that. And I will not ever validate the usage of the term false idols to oppress another person's faith. Just because their faith uses personifications doesn't mean it's idolatry. There's value in finding formlessness in the divine, and there's value in finding form. But what they all warn against is putting value into materialistic things, and those are the false idols. And so I hope with that understanding there can be more religious harmony, because it breaks my heart to see these differences being used to divide, rather than recognizing that they point to different parts of the same whole. Dear Martin, you wonder about the material part of power and fame. When I say material and when I reference scripture that refers to the material, I'm not necessarily limiting myself to just physical objects, but anything temporary, I mean that's material. And so by immaterial, I mean something that's spiritual, something that does not have a beginning or an end, something that is unlimited. Hope that clarifies things. And thank you, dear Skippy, for your pair of GGs. Om Namah Shivaya. And dear Glass Ghost, I hope you learn about all the things that you don't need to have in order to be happy. You don't have to have hair looking one way or another or any at all in order to be happy. You don't have to have one body looking like this or like that to be happy. And you will find so much happiness, not in trying to get anything from another, but in the power of giving and sharing something with another. We come into this world with nothing. We come out of this world with nothing. It's what we leave behind that defines us. All that we give, not what we get. And thank you for your follow, user 936, and welcome, Vlad. Dear Sephax, you ask, what do I think happens spiritually when lovers don't understand each other anymore? It means that the lessons they've had are coming to a closure for this time and space, and that they are free to find the very same connection in other bodies and minds. We all share the same super soul, and therefore everyone has the capacity to be your soulmate, and therefore the love that you have with one person is the very same love that you have in another. It's the same love, but different people in one life or another. All the same love, and love changes, love evolves, love grows, love transforms. We go from one partner to another, not because we're still looking for the one, but because we're learning from the same one existing in them all, but in one way and another, sequentially, continuing to learn our lessons. Each time we go through the experience of love, we deepen our understanding of ourselves and learn more about boundaries and how to help others and how not to help others. And each relationship is meant to be even if it's one that was unhealthy, you learned so much about yourself during it. And Sabina, you share that you don't have to have or not have a body in order to be happy. But so much happiness comes from being able to hold another person's hand, being able to hug them and care for them when they're sick. Always value having a body. It's a wonderful experience. Love your body, care for your body. Care for the bodies of those around you too, and validate having them. And thank you, Glass Ghost. And thank you, Draco Silly. And dear Sephax, you ask, so our individuality doesn't really exist, does it? I'm not sure where you got that idea, but our individuality definitely exists at one layer. But there's more than the layer that we are separate. We have separate bodies and minds, that's for sure. But we also have a unified soul and consciousness, that's for sure too. And all levels exist at the same time. It's not like you go to one level, the one before it disappears. Yes, in very high spiritual contexts, we come to realize that our true self is one with everyone. But we don't always live at that level. That we also live at a very human level, where we have separate bodies and minds and unique circumstances that define them, and lessons that we're each learning, and talents and personalities, and all of those differences are very real too. All of the differences speak to a source that can express itself in infinitely many ways. And that's why there is so many different people and so many different things to see and hear and experience, is because it's like that one source has exploded into infinity, and thus it's all the divine. And dear Robert, you shared that you learned to be comfortable with just one relationship. I'm happy to hear that. It's wonderful in one life to focus our love on a single person and see what happens when we do that. And who knows what will happen in our next life. And dear David's mom, thank you for your 17 finger hearts. Om Namah Shivaya. That's funny, dear Lumi. No, you don't need awesome hair to be happy, dear Glass Ghost. Dear Draco, you wonder if I still study mathematics. Right now, I find the most satisfaction in studying how I can be a better brother, son, and friend. My focuses are less academic now, and more about just how I can live a happy, pragmatic life of service to my body, my mind, and everyone around me. Dear Z, you share being able to love freely has been so crucial for staying whole and connected to your spirit after growing up with the idea that love is scarce, quote unquote. I'm so happy for you, dear Z. Indeed. Whoever said love is scarce clearly did not know love For love is infinite, and love can never be made lower, made less. You could never run out of it. Love is like that fire that, if ignited in your heart, upon catching another heart on fire, does not diminish your own. Love is so abundant. Well said, dear Canadian Canuck. Dear Sephax, you have been a terrible friend, brother, son, lover. Oh, don't tell yourself that. Acknowledge the room for growth, but don't feel like you have to be there yet. Your duty is not to beat yourself up for all the possibilities that you see in yourself, but to pursue them with humility and forgiveness, knowing that you're allowed to be exactly where you are right now. It's a beautiful thing to see how you can learn from your past, and you're going to become a much better brother and son and lover, etc., by accepting yourself. That's the paradox of self-improvement. Self-denial is not self-improvement, but self-acceptance holds the basis for true self-improvement. You two are ready for bed, dear Dawn. Well, I hope you have a wonderful sleep. May your deep sleep be rejuvenating, and may your dreams be meaningful. Now, that's not true, dear glass ghost. There are many times in which I've been rude to people in my past, and a person's life isn't defined by how good they are coming fresh out of the womb or not, but their ability to learn from their experiences. Wouldn't you agree? That it doesn't matter if a person's been negative their whole life, if they have the ability to be positive today. You make that change. If you take accountability, which I hope to do, as long as we continue learning and we honor the room for us to grow, then you're absolutely allowed to have made mistakes. Happy you can agree with that. Dear Lumi, you share that every action led you to this place. Every choice guided your possibility in the ethos of existence. Such poetic words, dear Lumi. You've made mistakes, all right. We all have, and that's okay. We don't have to identify with the one who has made mistakes as the nature of who we are. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn. And the more mistakes you make, the more you learn. And the most learned people are the ones that have made the most mistakes, because they're not afraid to do according to what they think is right. And upon coming into contact with an ever-expanding piece of knowledge, they look back at their past with gratitude and make the changes necessary for the future. Thank you for your follow, Canadian Canuck. Yes, thank you for the care you share, everyone, dear Kristen. I'm happy that makes sense. And thank you for sharing your virtual hugs, dear Matt, Gītā, for everyone. Z, you share to live in liberation from shame. We're all capable of growth and change. Yes. Thank you for amplifying that point, dear Z. It's quite funny. We all want to be the best version of ourselves as we can be. And yet we forget that the best version of oneself is a self that loves the version that we are now. And it's so simple when you put it like that, but how easy to forget. We want to be better, but one of the things that we can do better in is to be less hard on ourselves. We all want to be more open, but that means being open to being who we are right now. Leslie, you wish you lived in my world. You do. And I invite you in it. And I invite everyone to share this perspective if you find value in it. Never to supersede your own or to contradict any life you've lived thus far, but only to add to it. And I know these things are possible for me, not because I've lived one life and another person hasn't, but because I've been able to connect with a part within all of us that speaks for infinite possibility, regardless of circumstance, regardless of life events. We all have that capacity to see what we get in life and decide how we want to use it. Life isn't built with a rule book telling you how to gain meaning from each moment. You get to decide that. You are free. Anton, you share. Your responsibility is to love yourself, people in front of you, and everything around us. Well said, dear Anton. Welcome, dear Myrna. And Lumi, you share, we are each born in the forge of our own hardships, tempered by emotion and honed by peace. Oh, such poetic words, dear Lumi. And just like the meaning of your name being light, you enlightened many by expressing such sublime truths. Thank you. Hello, dear native girl. It's nice to have you here again. Thank you for your heart, me. How are you? Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. Luminaria is your full name. How delightful. Thank you, Nani. I have a long way to go myself, but what inspired me to keep going is because I realized there's no other way to live. I could live trying to survive each day according to my limitations and doubt myself and the world around me and almost drown every day in the despair of negativity. But I was practically already dead living like that, even if on the surface it didn't seem so. That behind a lot of my words and actions were assumptions that were no longer serving me. And when they broke down and I realized that I could no longer live like that, then there became only one other way. The only way forward is forged through humility, to accept that my worldview was limiting me and that I must see what's possible and pursue that at all costs, because there is nothing more important than that. Who am I to sacrifice my happiness when happiness is the ultimate sweetness that I get to share with the world, and I don't have to wait until anything around me just lines up in order for me to be allowed to be happy? That allowance can come at any time, and it's not selfish to do so. In fact, it would be selfish to withhold that happiness, dependent on things outside of one's control, because the world certainly deserves to receive your joy wherever you are in life. Hello, dear Aurora. And it's funny. Many people look at me and they see my youth and the privilege that I certainly have, and they have been hardened by life, as it were, and they refuse to believe that another person could be happy and live the same suffering that we have. But don't fool yourself. I have known what it's like to suffer too. And it's not from an absence of suffering that I speak of peace, but having gone through it myself, that I can tell you there is another side, and there's no point in living in despair, in sorrow. The real world is a wonderful world. The real world is not what you make it out to be. Suffering is a reality, that's for sure, but it's only one part of a much, much bigger infinity. You see, you have a sweet spot in you. Always is it there, even if you've experienced the most horrific atrocity. That sweet spot has only been covered and masked by the hardships of life because you had to put the walls up, because it's the only way you knew how to protect that part of yourself. But at some point, all beings realize, no matter how young or old, that your soft spot doesn't have to be protected. That you don't have to put the walls up and live like you need to defend something, because your true self is defenseless, not because it needs to be defended by anything else, but because it's immortal. Yes, flesh and bones may decay and die, but you are not these things. You are the witness of life, free from everything that you see. You just have so much empathy that it hurts. And you don't realize that your pain is not your burden, but a blessing, because it allows you to find value in something that could be, in wonderful possibilities that you know could be here instead of the broken systems we have. But that brokenness is not for you to attach yourself to and feel like there is no other way. The fact that you are pained by life means that there is another way, and your heart knows it so, and you are capable of making a world where that's a reality. And if it sounds like I'm reading Dear Dutch, it's because I'm reading the words in my heart, the words that are written in everyone's heart, that speak for possibility and wonder and commitment to a world in which no one has to go without realizing their true inner divinity. You may be tired of working, dear Kristen, but your work should be in service of the world. It should not be seen as something that is just your means of a paycheck, but it should be seen as a part of life itself. Remember that you are not here to gain anything of this world, but to give to it something that you have brought here from a place before you were born. You are here to bring joy, happiness, love, healing, help, understanding, and service. Our jobs, our occupations are not ways just to make an income, but to help others, even in small ways. Even a little interaction with a customer, you can brighten their day beyond measure. Your vibrations have ripple effects across the whole world. You don't have to dream big in order to manifest big dreams. Just creating wonder in small ways for the people around you is enough to make this world a little bit of a better place, one interaction at a time. And when you are ready to go and serve others in newer and perhaps greater ways, I am sure you will take that opportunity the moment that it arises. Thank you, dear Jose, for the heart me that you had sent. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That's lovely, dear Anton. I'm happy to hear of the beauty you find in butterflies and dragonflies. Thank you, Catwoman, for your pair of roses and heart me. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhanan Mrityur Mukshiyamamritat. And for your love, you, thank you. And thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your octet of roses. Radharani ki jaya. Dear Z, you had a workshop this morning on cellular breath and movement within us that ripples outward. Such micro movements, it starts all within. I'm so happy you were able to relate and add to that. Apologies on my hiccup. Thank you, dear Catwoman, for connecting with these words. Hello, dear Anazek. Now, keeping an eye on the time, I would like to begin to land the plane that is this live stream over the next half an hour or so, just to let you know. We've had a wonderful journey thus far, but I hope to be back tomorrow, and anything that was left unattended to, you're welcome to reach out on other platforms. Everything I do is free. If you ever want share something with me, or for me to share something with you in my inboxes, I'll always respond for free, and that will always be the case. I believe that it's not up to me to gain anything from you, because the true gift is the ability to give. Just that opportunity alone fills me with joy. Welcome, dear Lumia. Oh, we have two Lumies. I love that. But just know that I don't message on this platform. Unfortunately, that's a security protocol I've developed, because there are accounts that use my name and likeness to try to provide services for a price, which I think they're underestimating the understanding of this audience. You know, I hope you understand that everything I do is free. So if anyone reaches out to you on this platform, it's not me, especially if they ask for anything, because the greatest gift is, my ability to understand and learn from you and share things that I find helpful. Yume. That's a beautiful name too, dear Lumi. Oh, thank you, dear Jay, lastly. But I can never take credit for the journey that you have undertaken. But thank you for taking that journey yourself. Hello, dear Moore's Nexus. Thank you for the follow, dear Grey Cole. And dear Henry, your answer to the question of the day, what is the responsibility for humanity? You share stewardship of existence. I love that. Lumia, you ask, where am I from? Ultimately, the same place as you. If you go back far enough within yourself, you'll see our true origin is one. But I got this body from my mother, who is Canadian. And as such, that is the land which I happen to be born into in this life. Burloka, shares Gregor G. Indeed. That's beautiful, dear Lumi. I would wish you luck, but I already know you'll succeed. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for the quartet of team cheers. And dear Laura, thank you for the heart meme. Okay, perhaps now is a great time to transition to our Nididhyasana, which is the final portion of our Sangha that I dedicate to putting into practice everything that we've explored in our Manana, which is the segment we were just in. Thank you for another rose, dear Laura. Om Bhur Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. And thank you, dear Lumi, for your rose too. Om Kali Maha Kali Kali Ke Parmeshwari Sarvananda Kare Devi Narayani Namostute. And Anazak, thank you for your baker's dozen worth of roses. Om Vamadevaya Namo Jeshtaya Namah Shreshtaya Namo Rudraya Namah Kalaya Namah Kalavikarnaya Namo Balaya Namo Balavikarnaya Namo Balapramatanaya Namah Sarva Bhuta Dhamanaya Namo Manon Manaya Namaha. Oh, Gregor G and Lumi, you are delightful. Okay, for our meditation tonight, I wanted to do one in honor of the importance of yesterday in the Sikh tradition. As many of you know, this is a non-denominational space, and so I like to honor many different paths and traditions. Yesterday was the birthday of the first Sikh Guru, which is the founder of Sikhism, one of the dharmic religions of India. I would love to read a section from this beautiful book called Sikhs, the story of a people, their faith and culture. And I just love how the nebula comes through. I'd love to read the page on Guru Nanak, to tell you a little bit about him, on why he is so important for the Sikh faith, and tell you a little bit more about one of the world's lesser understood religions. This book is beautiful because it has amazing artwork and references from so many different sources. I really recommend this book if you want to understand more about the Sikh tradition. So let me tell you about the founder. There were 10 Sikh gurus, and after that they created the Guru Granth Sahib, which is the eternal guru. That's their scripture. And so after the 10th guru, then the guru became immortalized in scripture. But Guru Nanak was the first, and he was very human and very divine. Divinely human, you could say. Here's a 1960 oil painting of him by the Indian artist Sobha Singh. The founder of Sikhism, Guru Nanak, was the first spiritual leader of the faith. His indelible ideas of social organization, theology, and literature have endured through the ages and formed the bedrock of the Sikh religion. Guru Nanak created a socially involved religion that was based on the tenets of equality, service, and humanity. He also established a community quite distinct from others in the subcontinent. Sikh accounts narrate that before founding the religion, Guru Nanak was a man deeply devoted to serving God. Born within the milieu of heterodox religiosity, illustrated by the Bhakti, Sufi, Sant, and Nat movements that moved away from mainstream interpretations of Hinduism, Guru Nanak's early forays into theological ideas led him to craft an original faith that was opposed to the stringency as well as ritualistic aspects of Puranic Hinduism and Orthodox Islam. Historians note that he undertook great journeys across the entirety of India at the turn of the 15th century. Interacting with people of many different faiths. This helped him shape his own interpretation of divinity. It is evident from his subsequent writing that he had an acute understanding of the human condition, which in turn equipped him with the metaphors he used to preach his message to the masses. With Sikhism, Guru Nanak forged a new social order based on his cherished values of equality and humanitarianism, an overt demonstration against the evils embedded in the religious systems that he saw around him. Sikhism, however, hinged on a framework of equilibrium in caste or class, gender, economics, and age, forging a radical community with a distinct sense of identity that Guru Nanak's successors built upon. This self-identity was reinforced by the stress on collective action and liberation, which was unusual at the time. That's a great question, dear Ryan. I believe that all religions are complementary to each other. He was a noteworthy leader by instituting practices such as langar, which is, if I remember correctly, communal gatherings where everyone of every different class and age and part of society would come together and eat They would just eat together, have lunch, breakfast, dinner. Guru Nanak distinguished himself from other medieval poet saints who did not really challenge the system beyond their verses. He stood out for his unique philosophy that blended monotheistic worship with socio-cultural service. From his compositions on the nature of a good leader and proper governance, it is evident that his concern for social equality went beyond the religious to oppose the tyranny of political authority as well. The subcontinent had undergone changes in power and foreign rulers such as the Mughals, as they had institutionalized new and unequal policies. The community at Kartarpur, now set in modern-day Pakistan, was a representation of his political ideals of a fraternity based on social liberation, which would aid in his religious mission. As the Guru, Nanak initiated a schedule for followers to pray, meditate, cook, share food, and work to earn. This was replicated at other centers through subordinate leaders. The system gained the support of the community and became a way of distinguishing Sikhism from other religions. And he was the architect of a faith. Guru Nanak passed away in 1539 at Kartarpur, leaving behind ideas such as the Panchkhand, the 5 realms, philosophy of spiritual progress that leads one to the divine truth. His poetry, enriched with imagery, captured the beauty of the universe created by the divine. His successors built upon his poetry, philosophy, and structure to further strengthen the religion. Guru Nanak set the fundamental beliefs that are followed to date in Sikhism, and his Gurbani, or words, inspired the compositions of later Sikh gurus as well, demonstrating his central position in Sikh history. His tenets have been read, scrutinized, and reinterpreted in many contexts across centuries, which has enabled the first Guru to survive in memory long after his passing. However, most importantly, it is the values of humanity and equality enshrined by Guru Nanak into the Sikh ethos that memorialize him as an extraordinary individual. And there's an 1858 engraving after a painting by British artist W. Carpenter, as it depicts devotees reading the Guru Granth Sahib at a Sikh temple in Amritsar. And I'll show you that engraving. And there's a quote from Louis E. Fenech from The Evolution of the Sikh Community in the Oxford Handbook of Sikh Studies 2014 that states, Guru Nanak was clearly and lucidly the spirit behind Sikh ideology, a fact that is recognized in multiple ways in the unfolding evolution of the Panth. So thank you for listening. I thought that would be our meditation tonight, to put into practice learning from other cultures, faiths, and traditions. The more we can have a world which is in understanding of the various religions, the more we can understand where there's common ground and how there can be harmony. So may that reading educate you on who Guru Nanak was, the most important figure of Sikhism, and celebrate his birthday, which was yesterday, that I had missed and fortunately was able to do something today. I will add that Guru Nanak was a big believer in interfaith dialogue and cross-religious faith, as he would often sing poems that he heard from Muslim saints as well as Hindu saints. And many of those words became immortalized in the Guru Granth Sahib. And so the Guru Granth Sahib is a very unique religious scripture in that it draws from multiple different faiths simultaneously and quotes people of various traditions. And it's in that spirit that I offer this reading to you today. So, thank you for listening. Dear Mirna, you wonder if we have time for you to jump online and share a reflection from your side? You know, I think we do. Yes, I would love to have you share a reflection, my lovely friend from Lebanon.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, dear Mirna. How are you feeling at this moment?
I'm smiling. I'm happy to be able to join in.
I'm very happy to have you here.
I won't take long. Thank you.
Well, please share whatever's on your heart.
When you started talking about the Guru Nanak Day and the Langar and how inclusive it is, it just made me think about what I am doing for the past 2-3 weeks, and we will end what I was doing with a lunch that would assemble around it. It's only manushe day. It's a very easy bread topped with thyme, very easy food, simple food, and we will be gathered as you maybe you don't know that Lebanon is a sectarian country, unfortunately. So you only see people with their religious stuff, and you always want to know if they are Muslim or Shia or Sunni or Catholics or Druze or it is like this, and we are trying to change this point of view. But anyway, this lunch, back to that Langar, this lunch would gather around it Shia, Sunni, Druze, and Catholics, and Egyptians and Palestinians, and like not only one different religions, but also different
many people coming together.
Many people. So
I love that. And when did you say that was or is?
Few coming days, we're gonna get the flower, and in the coming 2 days.
I love that. Is that something new, or is it tradition around this time of year?
No, it's I was saying that I've been working for the past 2-3 weeks with displaced, actually, from south of Lebanon to my area. The displaced people took shelters in public schools, and there is the public school next to me. So I went to visit the kids to see what the kids are missing, since the big people are taking care of big people, but no one is taking care of the kids. So I took with me pencils and papers and and started going to make some activities for the kids, and we started to be friends with the parents also. And so we managed with some friends to get them this open oven and flour and gas. These are necessities, so they can bake their own bread at least.
That's wonderful.
And now sharing this bread fiesta, because we managed to get this so they can make their own bread. We will be inviting everybody around, which is a community, which is a place that holds many ethnicities and communities and origins, it's mixed areas. So we will have the Langar maybe. I'm trying to
Yeah.
understand the word longer. If I can just, it's praxis, the practice
Exactly.
of making practical what is. So we're having the longer. Maybe I'll take some pictures and share with you later.
I would love to see those pictures. Yes, that definitely sounds like a perfect example of a langar. So if I understand, you've been helping organize ovens and gas and flour for people to make bread in underprivileged communities, and in celebration of that, you're hosting a bread party for everyone to be able to share their bread regardless of religion and ethnicity.
Actually, let me add something else that I always point that this is not, I always point when I talk to people that this is not the solution, and this is not sustainable. Maybe today we can assist, maybe tomorrow we can't, and that we have to work together in a different way to build a country that is not. So I always find myself taking every social event too political to be able to change the situation and the relations between people, because it wasn't always like this here in my country, let's say. It wasn't about always about religions, It's something that came for many political reasons, interests of countries, and international politics is complicated. Anyway, so yeah.
And being aware of how things were and the value of what you had, you see that's a possibility still today, and you're helping make that a possibility in the ways that you can.
Is it a question? I didn't understand.
Just confirming. That's how I understand.
Yes. Confirm. Yes.
Well, thank you, dear Myrna, for sharing that. A wonderful reflection.
For listening. Thank you.
Of course.
Listening. See you soon. Ciao.
See you soon, dear Myrna. Namaste.
Can you close? I don't know.
Yes, I can do it for you, dear Myrna.
I'm not sure to see the... Thank you.
A lovely reflection indeed. And with that, we will be closing our Sangha. Thank you all for being here in any capacity. Even if you're here in the last few moments, hello and goodbye. We will be closing our Sangha tonight, but I hope to be back tomorrow around 5 p.m. Pacific time. But you should know that I'm on an island, and there's a phenomenon called island time. And it has a Wikipedia page. People live on islands don't seem to be good at making exact dates or times. So it's a phenomenon called island time. That if someone says you should show up at this time, they mean within a region around a few hours. And that even applied to my jobs. That my boss would say, could you show up at 1 p.m.? And I'd show up at 2 p.m. and I'd never had anything told against me. He knew that I showed up maybe an hour late for over a year, and that's island time for you. So when I say 5 p.m., I'll try to be on not just island time, but continental time. But if I'm a little late, that's why. And that's something that I think this world might benefit from if we all did. Wouldn't it be nice if we all lived on island time? There'd be no stress of arriving anywhere. You might notice if you take a ferry here, you have to come from Vancouver usually. In Vancouver, everyone's honking their horns. Come on, get out of the road. But as soon as you come on the island, no one's honking their horns. Still as many people on the road. But you could be in traffic, but no one's in a rush. And I love that feeling. And I hope everyone gets a chance to feel like that. And that's a privilege where I live. And I would love to make that privilege available for everyone. And we can do that ourselves by becoming a little less stressed, giving some more allowance for ourselves and doing the same for others around us. And Z, you're on New York City subway time, sort of like island time. You arrive when you arrive. I like that. That's funny. Thank you, dear Hybrid Jen, for sending a finger heart to dear Mirna. That's very lovely. It's wonderful that you can do that with guests. So, we will be departing for now, but I offer this YouTube channel, Yamsox Lives, that's the name of it, so that you know where we upload these. If you ever feel like there's anything of value here, you won't miss out if you don't show up. I'll always put the recordings there along with the readings and the meditations and whatnot. They have their own playlists too, so you can navigate to them. Now I hear my phone is vibrating. It tells me it's time to say goodbye. May this live stream be an offering to the divinity within you. Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. That means lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to deathlessness. May there be peace in our hearts, peace in our environment, and peace in the forces that compel us. Thank you for allowing me to be the host of this space. In any way in which I can be a better host, I want you to hold me accountable to that and be able to return next time with a greater ability to understand where you're coming from and be of service where I can. Thank you for understanding me and for being a part of this space. I love to see all of the positive sentiments being shared from each other and taking refuge in the experiences that we've had mutually. And wherever you go in this community or another, may you feel a part of a greater whole. Now, may you all have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, your evening, your morning, your night. For me, it's night, so I'm going to make myself a bedtime dinner and go to sleep and respond to my messages on other platforms. So without further ado, may you all have a wonderful rest of your present moment. Oh, and thank you, my lovely moderators, for helping make this space a peaceful one. Namaste.